Welcome to the Coaching Couch. On this week's episode, I am not on the couch. I am at my desk. I've got some notes behind the camera that I wanted to make sure that I cover. So we are sitting at my desk for ease, essentially. And we are introducing a brand new series, with this being session 1. I'm going to title it People Watching and the Power of Instinct. So just to recap what I said in the introduction to the course on the last, basically introduction to the channel on the last video, was the Coaching Couch series, or the channel itself, this one, will be focused more on the service offerings from Nexa Strategic. So my operational consultancy will take that step by step. The idea behind Nexa is everything that I've ever worked in. So any department that I've ever worked with or in, I have now made that as a service offering within my company. Now, this is something sometimes I was taught, sometimes I just picked up on my own. So, for example, strategy was something that I just taught myself. The same with compliance. Like, I had previously worked at a digital asset custodian in the ops department, but I didn't really do anything in compliance until there was need to sort of work with them and remove silo decision making, which was abundant in this company. So being exposed to different departments and actually working in that digital asset custodian for 2 years helped me now shape and sort of lay the foundation of what Nexa Strategic is. So, for example, the series that I'm going to cover today, so I think I've said I'm going to call it People Watching and the Power of Instinct. That will just be its own series within the Coaching Couch. I'm going to forget how to say that, but the Coaching Couch. The next series that will follow will probably be compliance. We're just going to take it alphabetically because that's how I sell my company. So it's like ingrained in my brain. So we start with instinct, then we go to compliance, then we'll go to maybe a little bit of finance. Like, I didn't have a lot of exposure to that, but frameworks, how to make a P&L, not hard. I have to now do it for my own company. So this is self-taught. Legal, I have an international European law degree, so we won't cover in that much detail, but we will cover the basis of what I know from law and what's relevant to having your own company or sort of just wanting to start something on your own. The initial cover will probably be just an overview, and then we'll take it down into like, how do you draft a contract? How do you draft an employee contract? How do you draft an NDA? What are the critical things that need to be put in? And then what are things that if you receive an NDA or a contract, what do you need to look out for? That's just off the top of my head. So we've done compliance, finance, legal. We'll probably do HR as well. Again, I have never worked in HR directly, but having been exposed to HR and now having worked as chief of staff in 2 companies, COO in 1 company, and now having my own company, I am the HR department, and I feel like many founders will also be their own HR departments for a while. So that will probably cover something like the essentials in the UK of what documents a company needs. So something like an employee handbook, grievance procedures, discrimination policies, stuff like that, but we'll take it step by step. My goal with every single department that I will cover in this Coaching Couch series will be that I'll give tangible documents that people can use as a template. So, for example, I'll create an employee handbook that people can just download and then amend for their own use case scenario. Going back to the departments that we will be covering, touch lightly on marketing. Again, haven't worked in marketing, but because of having my own company now, I am the entire marketing department as well. Like, I do have help from my team, but I have taught myself how to use Canva. I've taught myself how to video and do marketing and social media. So we'll touch upon that briefly. Then we get to what I have done for the last almost decade, which is operations. And we will go in more in depth in that series. And then the last 2 departments that we'll probably finish up with are risk and strategy. So yeah, that is the overview. I think the segmentation of the Coaching Couch into, let's say, 10 of these departments, including the Power of Instinct, will serve as like foundation models. And then we'll start doing more niche and in detail even deep dives of each department. So to start this week's session, like I said, it's called People Watching and the Power of Instinct. This is the foundation of leadership instinct. People watching. I mean, everybody does it. I do it regularly. My dog, she does it regularly as well. She'll sit on the balcony and just stare at people, dogs, birds the entire day. The differentiator here, obviously not for my dog, but for me and what people do regularly, is people watching is often done, let's say, on the tube, in a cafe, in a restaurant, in a bar. And you do pick up certain things, but it's more from the perspective of sort of judgment. And that's absolutely fine. Like, we all love to judge a little bit. But the idea when we tie instinct and people watching into leadership and business is how to read body language. It's how to put yourself in the correct mindset. It's how to, so I call it, how do I refer to it as? So I refer it as like, you know what someone else is going to do before they even do it. There's definitely a word for that. I don't know what it is, but we're just going to run with it. Like I said, until I learn how to edit, it's just going to be raw, unedited footage. So yeah, people watching in that aspect is basically how to spot patterns in behavior or speech patterns or anything like that, that will then make you able to basically risk assess on the spot. Like, I risk assess on the spot, whether it's working with someone or like an email. But at the same time, reading body language is, I think, the most critical skill that I have developed. And it can kind of, so like what's happened in the last few weeks, that I was meant to be having a client come on at Next Strategic. But it started off the bat so interesting, so like enthusiastic. Let's do this. Having now, I am Serbian, now working with people in the Balkans, the mentality, and I think, like, obviously I've grown up in the UK, my mentality to business is it's not personal, it's just business. You start going more to Eastern Europe, everything is personal, everything is as far away from it's just business as humanly possible. So having come on to that, I was speaking with our technical advisor and saying that something doesn't feel right. I have never met this person, so the client that was meant to be coming on, he was sense checked, and basically I got introduced once we were meant to start sending out contracts and coming up with the proposal. But I got to around week 3, bearing in mind we were meant to start beginning of January, like Christmas, New Year, Serbian Christmas, Serbian New Year. So obviously just naturally everything got delayed. And then he had a very hard goal of sort of getting up and running by September. Now, that constantly kept getting pushed down the line, and sort of there wasn't an open dialogue. So it was always me prompting, me chasing, to which I spoke to our technical advisor and just said, something is not right. I think he's either gonna bail or he's just gonna forever, basically, indefinitely postpone it. So what I had come about is there was a period where we were meant to be waiting on his lawyers to draft up the contracts, which made no sense because obviously he's outsourcing work to us. So it really should have been my company creating it. But I was like, you know what, if you want to get your lawyer to draft a first draft, for sure, like, I don't mind. It got to like a Friday evening and I could see that there was no movement. Like, I'd send chases every single week, when like 3 weeks late from our start point. And then I just sent a message in our group chat saying, shall I just create the contracts? And he was eager for it, all good and going ahead. I wrote the contract. One is in Serbian, one is in English. So basically, obviously has to be in English, has to be in Serbian, so he would understand it as well. And then right off the bat, sent it across. It took maybe 6 hours to draft-ish, which if anyone has a background in law, has ever drafted a contract, you know a 10 to 15-page 5-year partnership contract does not take 6 hours. But I had templates. I knew what I wanted in it. So I just basically put in information as a starting point for negotiation. It came back with so many problems. He came back with, why is all the onus and risk on me? I put a guarantee that's something that we just couldn't guarantee because it wasn't within our remit. It was a third-party accreditation board had to get him certified. And I was like, I can't control that outcome. And we've never told you that we can guarantee we can keep working in line so that you'll get the best chances of being credited. But whether or not you're credited is down to the third party. Anyway, so there was that. Basically, at the end of the day, the scope of the work wasn't the problem and the price wasn't the problem, but he kept nitpicking every single other thing and obviously creating delay tactics. So then again, Monday rolled around and I spoke to our technical advisor again. I just said, I think I need to let him, like the client, take time, process it, speak to his lawyers, then nothing for 10 days. 10 days being last week, I checked in again and I asked, what's happening? Where's the lawyer? Nothing. And by this point, I was like, I know that client's dead. Like, there's no way that we're even going to start working. He keeps delaying the process. And then I sat down, I spoke to my team and just said, the way that this has started makes me wonder if for the rest of the time we work together, there's always going to be a problem with whether it's payment, whether it's not agreeing on KPIs. It just seems like a really hard partner to have on this sort of thing. And context, they were going to develop a drone training school. So everything had to be done by the book, within standards, like best practices. Everything had to be like above board. And the way it was starting was just giving me like a bad taste in my mouth. So I decided to leave it be. I checked in again every single week. I've been checking with this potential client. And he kept coming up with like excuses. Like, don't get me wrong, he had some sickness in his family. But nothing was ever done where he said he had to do something with someone. He never delivered. So it was always my team delivering, me checking in. So I decided, I was like, that's fine. Let's move on. Now, having already given him a proposal and an addendum and 2 contracts, I was like, let's just see whether or not this guy is actually, if we're going to like hit the nail on the head with what I've been thinking. And I sent him an invoice for the work done. And exactly, lo and behold, came back. He basically threw all his toys out the trolley, started having like a tantrum about like, how dare you, like, you'll hear from my lawyers. I was like, I've been waiting to hear from your lawyers for the last 10 days. But yeah, basically that ended. So that was a very nice, like, it didn't end nicely, obviously, but the way that he behaved, I had been presuming he would behave that. So not that I felt vindication, because obviously, like, not that I lost a client, but we parted ways, but it kind of made me reassured about what I was feeling and about how I had the gut feeling that I didn't think that this is going to be a good partnership to start with. And then obviously don't, like, the test that I did by sending this invoice was valid. Like, it wasn't anything that I was trying to trick him into, but the way he reacted is something I guaranteed would happen. So it felt sad. It felt like a waste of my time, basically, because my team had put like a lot of effort into creating all these documents. But I'm glad that it ended when it did and how it did, because I can only imagine what the rest of my next 5 years would look like if I'd actually started getting into a partnership with this client. So this is what I mean when I say body language, recognizing patterns, being able to predict what someone's going to do before they even do it based on repeated behavior, repeated conversation, or anything like that. So picking up something like that, it takes a while. It's taken me 5 to 6 years to learn, but I'm trying to get it across in sort of digestible series through the coaching couch where you can learn to do that. So very long intro. It's taken a lot longer than I thought it would, but now we're going to actually get into the session. So part 1, like I said, is the power of instinct. We're going to start with my, I'd say, motto, which is certifications teach rules, not mastery. Now, I have a law degree. I taught myself to code Python. I have a certification for that. Like, I've been tested that I can do basic Python coding. I did a KYC AML certification as well. But again, the rationale behind doing these certifications wasn't that I would have a piece of paper to say, yes, I know how to do it. It was more that they would set a foundation of what frameworks I need to know. So with KYC and AML, there are very strict guidelines in the UK and the EU about how you do a KYC, or what are anti-money laundering rules in the EU specifically. So let's talk about certifications. Agile, Lean, Prince 2, Six Sigma, PMP, HR, all these certifications I'm sure you've heard of. And I realized that people love to collect them like their trophies. I feel like people think that once they've got a certification, that's it. Like any employer will want them. I know what I'm doing. I know what I need to do. And to an extent, that is correct, because all these courses and certifications even, they give you the basic of a framework. They give you the foundation. They give you the rules. And they give you a piece of paper that says that you know the framework. And that's it. Like I said, they just teach you the rules. They don't teach you mastery. So let's break down like some of the courses. So take Agile, for example. The certification and the program might teach you how to run a sprint or manage a Scrum board, but it doesn't really prepare you for the real challenges. And by that, I mean team conflicts, misaligned priorities, or I don't know, unspoken hesitations during sprint planning. It doesn't prep you for, it gives you, like I say, in theory, it gives you the paperwork that you need to know and like the framework. It definitely doesn't give you real world situations and what to do with your team when something happens. So, I mean, I talked about Agile. I mean, we can go through another one that I know people do a lot, like especially in consultancies and project management, like Lean. Like, yes, you don't really need a course to tell you how to eliminate waste or streamline workflows. If you've been in like 1 year of working, that is something that you'll pick up just by having done the day-to-day of your job. But they don't really tell you how to observe patterns or understand human behavior or solve problems in real time. And that is what something like the people watching that I'm going to introduce in this course, or Instinct, once you've mastered that will give you the tools so that once you have the certification, if you have the paperwork and the instinct, it will make you a much more well-rounded person in business, in your job. I mean, we're taking this specifically for like project management and operations courses, but I will happily put my reputation, I guess, on the line and say, I think any course that you do is just a framework, but you need instinct, you need gut, you need these tricks of reading and understanding human nature and human behavior to make you well-rounded in anything, personal, private life. So let's take it through. I'm taking it through the notes that I've taken. So let's see if I've missed anything. No. So people watching. Like I said, we all love to people watch. I love to people watch. And I think that with people watching, you always watch them in a very natural environment. So whether you're in a coffee shop or whether you're in a bar, people don't realize that they're being watched. I mean, obviously in a bar, everyone assumes that someone's watching someone, like that's the idea. But in a coffee bar, if someone's working, you don't really have them be on their best behavior, so that like they're very in their natural environment. Their guard is down. They're not pretending. It's not an act. They're in their most natural way. And in these instances, I find that reading people is the easiest. So what I like to do is go, for example, if I'm with at dinner with a friend, we will sit and obviously have a conversation. And then inevitably around us, there'll be a couple that's on a date. Whether it's a first date, whether it's a second date, we don't really ever know because we don't validate this. But very quickly, you can figure out whether or not someone is more invested in the date or not. And by this, I mean, like I'm sure people have seen on social media, like whether or not there's eye contact, whether someone's leaning in, whether someone's leaning back, whether their arms are crossed. These things that we all do subconsciously, but they speak volumes. So for me, when you're in a situation where you know you're being like watched, or for example at work, a lot of times people are on their best behavior. They won't let their guard down, but that's all an act. When people are like on a date, there's certain moves that they do that are subconscious. So for example, there's a really like, in all Hollywood films, is like that cliche. It's like if a girl fancies you, if you're on a date, she'll tuck one ear behind or she'll do a double tuck. That doesn't really mean anything. That's just something that will like someone will do. Whether or not in dating, this is not a video for that. We're talking about business. So the idea behind people watching as like a bouncing off point is that once you put yourself in a situation where you're the observer watching someone that are in their natural state, if you keep repeating that. So again, everything that we'll be doing is repetition. The more you repeat it, the more you learn it. watching people that aren't in like a meeting or ready, expecting to be watched, they let their guard down. And once you've mastered that in like in a cafe setting or a bar setting, you can easily transfer that into a meeting. So the way I do it now in a meeting is you can always tell who tries to talk over someone. That's an easy thing that you pick up on. But what you don't maybe pick up on is how people react with like the noises they make from their mouth. So I had a family friend who, when she wasn't paying attention or interested in what someone was saying, she'd just go, mm-mm, or like, like she'll make these noises that aren't really relevant to the conversation. But what they do is whoever's speaking, she doesn't let them speak. Like a lot of times someone will be like speaking the whole time and you're meant to be silent, actually being actively engaging, actively listening and paying attention to what the conversation's about. But because she was not interested in the conversation, she just kept making these grunts and like noises to make the other person understand that she's not really caring what they're saying. And very rarely does the person who's actually talking realize that this is happening. What you may think is happening is she's actually agreeing with you. So for example, if someone's talking, you're like, like, yeah, that means someone's actively listening, someone's actively engaging because their entire body is moving with them. However, in the scenario I'm describing, someone will be talking and what she'll be doing is just like very, very stoically like, or like, and that doesn't connect. So if one part of you is saying or doing something, but the rest of your body isn't following, it's not a natural reaction. That we'll cover that definitely later on in something like body language and micro expression. So there's and I'll give an example now. There's a very easy way to show whether someone's genuinely smiling or not. And that's like in a photo you can find online, just look up like true smiles. And a lot of times people who smile naturally, their eyes will also get like the little crow's feet. And that means that all of your muscles are working at the same time to have the expression. People who are faking a smile or faking excitement or interest, they won't use all the muscles in their face. So up until like here, you'll see a smile, but the rest of their face won't be in line with the emotion they're expressing. We'll talk about that more in depth because that's a much longer video and it's very, the micro expressions is very niche and nuanced, and you definitely need to learn the other things that we'll get through in this series before we get to that, because there's a lot of subtleties and they're usually milliseconds. They're not long and you need to be able to catch them when they're happening. So, how to build your instinct with people watching. Like we said, observe body language. That is the easiest and the quickest way that you'll master this at any scenario. So for example, when I walk my dog, we'll be walking together, but I'll have headphones in, no music is playing. And my friends will tell you that they've called me a few times without any music playing because I will respond if someone calls my name. But what I will be doing is like watching and scanning. So I'll walk her and pay attention to what we're doing. But at the same time, I'll walk around and, for example, you can, when people walk past you, are they holding hands? Are they in an argument? Are they tense? Is someone walking 3 steps ahead of someone because they've just had a fight? Are they like stiff in their body language? Are they walk? And this is another thing that I've picked up on very recently. When you walk with someone, at some point your body will naturally start being in sync. So you'll realize that at some point you're matching each other's steps. People who aren't in sync, like for example, if they have had an argument, their body will lag and you won't have that follow up. So step 1, observe body language. In the open, in a meeting, in any situation where you're around other people, observe. It does tire you out because you have to constantly be focusing. But what I do is just find in one instance and then just look for patterns. And let's say one day you want to pick up and figure out whether or not someone's happy or sad or angry. Pick an emotion that's quite big so that when you realize it, it's an easy pattern to spot. So pattern recognition and pattern spotting ties into body language because, like I said, subconsciously, we all have patterns. We all do things like through human psychology and sociology that is just ingrained into us as humans. Now, some people can mask it, like people who are sociopaths, psychopaths, but that is a different conversation. We're not getting into that ever in this series. So yeah, observe body language, pattern recognition, and then just practice. So go to the park, go to the cafe, and watch for stuff like, is one person more dominant than the other? Is one person more closed off than the other? Are they doing anything that like will guard their body? And by that, I mean, are they sitting cross-legged, cross-armed? Are they holding their face? Are they doing anything that when two people are talking, they're trying to pull away from the conversation? Because again, subconsciously, your body knows if you're in a sort of like our nervous system continuously sorry, that's my dog. Our nervous system is continuously doing these like risk assessments from our fight or flight days from like caveman. So your body will naturally, once it's in like a stressed scenario, will always try and find a way to get out of that. Sometimes, and first of all, it will come subconsciously, and then your body will slowly start to tell you. If people don't read, and very rarely are people that in tune with their subconscious, it will then get to the level where their body can't do it subconscious anymore, and it becomes conscious. And that's when you get the entire like moves, and the last thing that happens is people's facial expressions. It starts to show on their face. So these are the 3 things I do. Like I said, observe body language, look for patterns, and practice every day. Sorry, she's playing with a ball. Hi, can I record? Can you give me 2 minutes and we'll play? Okay, thank you. Sorry, she's now in a strop. She's gone into her crate. So the coaching couch challenge for this week is go to a cafe, park, or your workplace. Spend 10 minutes just people watching. Pay attention to how they move, what they say, how they behave, and how they engage with others. Pick one interaction, like I said, like an emotion, like let's say anger, or if you're out, try to spot how someone's flirting. Like, are they being overly giggly? Are they leaning in? Is someone leaning back? What is the top half of their body doing? What is the bottom half of their body doing? Are they turning into someone in a conversation? I will make a sheet that will be attached to this video that outlines like the beginning steps of what to do for this challenge and what to spot. So if we stick to like, let's say flirting, I will give you 5 to 10 probably things to spot what someone is doing to assess whether you think they're being flirty or not. And then try to figure out why they're doing this. Flirting is easy because, easy for this instance, because the rationale behind it is they're flirting because they like the person. Now, why, if we pick a different emotion like anger or sadness, is really hard to break down because there might be external factors and internal factors within a person to sort of assess. So something like a date, whether it's at a bar, whether it's in a coffee shop, is a lot easier to read because you can assume, even from watching like a film, if you watch like a rom-com, to sort of pick up on something that people in movies will be doing in an exaggeration. I would say start off with watching a film where they're in a loving scene on a date, and then take it back, realize what they did, try to write down exactly what you saw, what you think was flirting or what wasn't flirting, and then take that and try to do it in real life. And then bring this skill back to work. Now, I'm not saying flirt with people, but I'm just saying for example, your next meeting, watch for mismatches. So the flirting thing where I said, why would we start with flirting, is it's very clear to see if someone's flirting and someone's not interested. There'll be stark contrast. Like that is the easiest one to start with. And that's the one that's the most entertaining when people go people watching. But when I say bring it back to work and your business, it's the mismatched behavior that is the thing that will be striking to you. So like I said with the flirting scenario, like I said on a date, if someone's really leaning in to have conversation, to be actively listening, to be closer to the other person, but the other person is leaning back or moving away or like not paying attention or not looking with eye contact, you can clearly see the mismatch of body language. You then take that into work. And in a meeting, for example, you can catch yourself. If you're the one leaning in, are you the one leaning back? Are you the one that's like trying to avoid contact? Are you not interested in what they're saying? Are you fidgeting? And then you start thinking, what does that tell you about the motivation behind that? So that is this week's Coaching Couch Challenge. Let me know how it goes. Write it in the comments. DM me directly. I love helping people, hearing people. If you have any sort of more questions about what to spot, let me know as well. Sorry. And I guess this is just the start of the coaching couch. In future sessions, like I said, we'll be doing deeper dives into instinct and how it applies to every department. And then we'll go through every department in their own series. But we won't just cover the framework. So it's not just going to be like another certification. It will be real world skills and examples. Like I will probably give a lot of my own real life examples so that it will give you the confidence to lead. Sorry, my mouth is very dry now. So if today's session resonated with you, like this video, subscribe and share it with someone who wants to sharpen their leadership instincts. And don't forget to check us out on the Next Big Move podcast on YouTube and Spotify. Until next time, remember, certification teaches you the rules, but instinct lets you break them and still win.